Welcome to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night edition. Welcome, folks. I'm Al Huey, along with my partner, Robert Eierman. And again, our host tonight from last week, we're going to continue this.
Our guest
tonight, I'm sorry, not host, is Mr. Bill Manofsky, former Navy commander. Thanks again for joining us here tonight, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Last week we talked about water. I guess we're going to continue talking about water in this valley and maybe some solutions. One of the things you brought up last week that was interesting was the possibility of a couple of new well fields. Let's expand on that a bit.
That's a proposal that's being kicked around as one of the solutions to our problem here. There's a lot of people, particularly the farmers, who have a lot of experience drilling deep wells in this valley, 10-inch deep wells, and they know there's water down deep. So when I saw the rezoning being done away from agriculture, I kind of suspected something was going on. I then read the Todd report. I'm an engineer. I did a full peer review of that document, and I agree with the president of Todd Engineering that we need to do more studies, okay? But the idea of putting in additional well fields, one up to the north and one up to the south, and I'm talking deep wells, to get down into the granitics, I think we're going to have plenty of water. I think we are an open basin. I think the water flows from the north. If you look at the maps, particularly the Tetra Tech report from the Navy, the Little Lake Fault runs right through the valley. That's a giant conduit, supposedly, for water into the base. So we need to explore all those possibilities.
That was sure sound better than tapping the LA aqueduct, importing water from someplace far away.
Right.
The best I've heard in a long time.
And the south well field would be where now?
I have a picture that I'll share with everybody. This came from essentially the Todd report, and also Tim Ross from DWR presented it. You can see the Walker Pass Road right there. There is an area of sweet water in positive recharge or positive flow where the red area is in decline. We should have a well field down there. And oh, by the way, across the 14 is at a higher elevation than the area here. The water would be very inexpensive to pump downhill
Yes.
to a central location.
And if we had those two additional well fields, last week you mentioned that we could leave one well field off for 10 years.
Well,
because we'd be alternating between these three well fields.
look at the scenario where you have two well fields, okay, and you alternate between one and the other. One would be idle for 5 years, and the other one would be on for 5 years. That'd be 5 years worth of recharge. That's a lot. But if you add a third well field, and you alternate them each every 5 years, the idle fields will get 10 years of recharge with 3 well fields in place. That would be significant.
Yeah, it would.
I don't think we would need a GSA. I don't think we would be looking at the risk of higher water rates or
Unfortunately,
fines.
the GSAs are here to stay. Once the government creates...
Matter of opinion. My opinion is they're going to get sued into oblivion.
You think?
That's my feeling.
Well, it's happened to one other state agency that you and I both know of.
Yes, right.
Well, they didn't get sued, but they got scared into being sued.
Right.
Well, I studied the adjudication that occurred down in Barstow. I read that complaint, and I was surprised. That lawsuit took over over 20 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We could be in the courts for years.
Right.
And that's my concern, and that's why I see drilling is really the good solution here, is I see the county leaders bringing in a lot of attorneys, but I don't see them bringing in any well drillers. And all our money is going towards attorneys, and the attorneys are going to make out like bandits in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
We really need the well drillers making out like bandits.
Yes.
I would prefer to see that. That's where I want to see my money go.
Me too. Drill, baby, drill.
That's right.
Well, any idea who would finance these possible two other well fields? Any ideas being discussed there?
The discussion is not only go to the Department of Defense through the Navy, but also go to the Department of Agriculture. There is talk of actually turning off one of the alfalfa fields from production, pay them for the crop that they don't produce, and let that well recharge and see what happens. The well's already there. That's an exploratory well.
Yeah,
Why not
right,
try it?
Right. Yeah. See what.
But I don't hear these solutions. I just hear rezoning.
So pay the
higher
alfalfa grower to shut down for 5 years.
No, pay an alfalfa, however long. I would bring in the Colorado School of Mines, propose this to them, and see what they recommend as to how long it should be shut down. If it's 2 years, all the better. But that would be cheaper than drilling a 1,000-foot well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure it would.
That's just one of the solutions.
And then you'd have some actual, absolute hard data of the situation.
Well, the problem here, like I said last week, there's been two opinions in this valley, open basin, closed basin. And I don't know how I would rank the community on that, whether it's 50-50 or 60-40 or what, but this has been ongoing since I've been here.
Okay, but if it's a closed basin, you stop drawing water out of that well. If that well comes up, doesn't that indicate an open basin? Or
I would assume so, but I think we need to do what the Navy did in the Tetra Tech report. They actually put transducers down in the well. The reason why that report was done was to determine if contaminants were coming off the base into the Inyakern area.
Okay,
so they put transducers in there in these wells, and if you look at the underground topographical maps, there's a shallow, intermediate, and deep, which is about 300 feet. They've got flow directions showing the direction of the flow, and the water actually comes from the base. It actually, at that time, showed a water plume under Public Works on base. You could drill down 10 feet and hit water.
Wow.
Okay? And so...
I've heard that.
So we need good scientific analysis brought in. I like the idea of transducers to measure water direction and flow.
We got to take a break. But we'll talk about transducers when we come back and more about water. Join us on the other side.
And welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of Ridgecrest Talk. I'm Robert Eierman, along with co-host Al Huey. And this evening we're glad to welcome back Commander Bill Manofsky, and we're talking water.
Yep.
Imagine that.
Well, we were on break. You said you wanted to talk about Sand Canyon?
Yeah, we were talking about data generation.
Right.
First of all, the idea about shutting down one of the alfalfa fields, that's just one of the solutions to gather data. That's just low-hanging fruit. I still think we need to drill more wells. But I was presented the data from 2 chart recorders that were up in Grapevine Canyon and Sand Canyon. And if you look at the data, it shows the creek beds are dry up there. The problem is they only put them in one location in each canyon. Well, the water comes out of the shears and it goes underground and then back up and then underground again, and so they should have had multiple locations. And I now know, after going up there, I posted on YouTube a video of a running creek in Sand Canyon. They should have put the chart recorder there. And that
Robert and I, some months back, we saw a video of one, a little waterfall. And, yeah.
And it goes into a big pond. You know, there's standing water up there. When I walk down to the pond, the whole area is a plume of water. I was walking in a marshy area with plants about this tall that you would see next to a swamp, is up in Sand Canyon. And I'm going, what's this about? Mm-hmm. You know, there is an upwelling of water there. And what my concern is that's telling me the data is not properly taken, which can skew opinions.
Yes.
All right. And so,
Sure.
like I was saying, we need to get the Colorado School of Mines out here.
If you're in favor of government agency being able to tax and control and have more power, they're going to get the data that they want to support their position. I
Yes.
mean, that's just the way it works.
Speaking of government control, I wanted to revive the discussion that you and I had with Supervisor Gleason and see what Mr. Manofsky has to say relative to Prop 218.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Supervisor Gleason was pretty hard over saying that, oh, no, that doesn't come into this equation whatsoever, and we can just tax you and fee you and charge you and no worries. I think I disagreed with him at the time, and I certainly strongly disagree with him, and I think that's going to be a huge situation relative to the GSA, the GSP. I don't think they're going to be able to be successful getting away with it. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I am thankful that 218 is a buffer. I have a little concern that county attorneys that we pay for are being used to find ways to usurp Prop 218, to find ways to increase our fees. I don't like that.
Good point. I don't like that either.
I think there's a very fragile balance here in the Indian Wells Valley. I have trouble finding doctors here. I went to the emergency room several months back, and I didn't have a doctor for 8 hours, okay, just because nobody wants to come here. Mm-hmm. And so we're telling the world that we've got no water. I hear talk of limiting the water usage to 100 gallons a day. Who's going to want to come and work at China Lake? I hear they're hiring 400 people. Are they going to want to stay when they have to limit their water use? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's going to defeat the purpose.
I agree.
Yeah, certainly, Alan.
That was the argument that we heard during the land management issue.
And that's what I'm all about, is protecting the Navy mission, and the Navy mission has to do with all about drawing the best talent you can get.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was horrified to see the Navy jump on board with "we're out of water." I mean, that seems totally counter to their mission.
My only concern is...
I was upset with them using the word encroachment.
Yeah,
I still think that opinion can be modified with the proper information coming from both sides. And that's what I'm going to work to do. Cool. I know the farmers are reticent about bringing their data forward. I have been talking to them now. They're the ones that informed me about the well, the very high producing well at West Ridgecrest Boulevard.
Is that a water district well?
That well is owned by the water district. The story there was it was traded for land, swapped for land along Brown Road.
Okay.
And the water district now has that well capped off. I'd like to know why they're doing that. But this is an extremely high producing well, 4,200 gallons per minute with only a 17-foot drawdown, right in the middle of the bullseye below the inverted cone, down to 1,000 feet. It's down in good water. They did a Title 22 test on it. It's potable water. I talked to one of the people there that was present when it was drilled. It's a 10-inch casing. He said the water flow is so much it pushed the casing to one side of the hole.
Why would they cap it off? It doesn't make any sense.
Got to ask the water district.
Yeah, well,
We're gonna have
Mr.
to do.
Zadiba, here we come.
Yeah.
So that has been brought forward. So what I would like to do is help the farmers talk to the proper people. And I'll tell you right now, as I understand California Civil Code, before there is any kind of litigation, there has to be mediation. So we're probably all going to have everybody at the table anyway. Mm-hmm. And again, mediation is an extremely expensive process. I don't know if it applies in this situation. I would hope it would before we go in front of a judge.
I thought it was kind of disturbing that when we begun talks of the local GSA and who was going to be on it, And the big issue, or at least one of the big issues, the gorilla in the room, if you will, are the farmers. And they weren't going to have a part in the discussion. Fortunately, they formed their own water district, and now they have to be included. So.
Well, they formed their own water company, the Mojave
company.
Mutual Water Company.
Right.
Yes.
And to the point where,
Now they're a part of the GSA.
Well,
oh, really?
not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
I don't think they've been included yet.
But they'll have a tough time excluding them.
Right.
A few of us citizens.
They
will-
were at the meeting that I attended last week.
I understand. You haven't heard a vote making them a member. They'll
That's
have
true. Well, there hasn't been a
We-
vote
we-
on
we
who's
can-
going to be a member
We
yet,
can
so-
riot, though.
Yeah, there you go.
And to the point why they need to be included, I was at a
We have to go to the break. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, we're running out of time again, so join us after the break for more Thursday evening Ridgecrest Talk.
Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk, the Thursday night edition. We're here again with Bill Manofsky, former Navy commander, retired, talking about water. And we were talking about the possibilities of 2 new well fields. We were talking about this well out off Ridgecrest Boulevard that evidently belongs to the water district.
Yes.
They capped it off,
Yes.
and it's got a water flow
Capacity,
of 40 or
4,200 gallons
4,200
a minute.
a minute.
a minute, and
Recharge?
recharged in
It
17 foot recharged in
It's
minutes.
17 foot drawdown,
17-foot drawdown.
which is significant because that's mean it's being recharged as it's being drawn out at that
Right.
rate. Most other wells outside of the valley only test to 2,500 gallons per minute, and they draw down 200 to 300 feet. This one's only 17 feet.
So the
Right.
question is, why did the water district cap that well that was such a great performer?
Let me be totally facetious and totally outlandish.
Okay.
How can they claim a water shortage and raise our rates if they have good... No, I didn't say that, did I?
Control the data.
Yeah, control the data.
Yeah. All right. This is our last segment. We're not done yet. We've got a few more minutes. But can the community help? Can the public help you in any way by writing, calling, emailing anybody at
I
state
think-
or
Yeah,
Washington?
right now, the best thing to do, I would say, to get a petition together to Congressman McCarthy. I would also get a petition to Senator Feinstein to try to get legislation, because most of the legislation is focusing on the Central Valley. I'd like to see either that legislation modified to include the Eastern Sierra, focused on getting money for water exploration. The discussion that I had with Senator Feinstein's staff about this was to not only address water issues at China Lake, but Fort Irwin, Edwards Air Force Base, and 29 Palms, so we can get everybody included at one time, instead it's just a focus on the Indian Wells Valley. So it would help me with my efforts with the congressman and the senator if I had the people standing behind me, or Association of United States Navy had the people standing behind us when we go talk to them. That would be a good thing to do.
Okay. So
So-
write your congressman,
Right.
write your senator.
Congressman McCarthy,
Senator
Senator Feinstein,
Yeah.
and you mentioned some congressman down.
Yeah, that's the Congressman David Valadao in
David Valadao.
in the 21st district, but we're not constituents of his. And it would be okay to write letters, but I think our biggest bang for our buck is with McCarthy, because I'll say it correctly, he's the majority leader in the House, not the Speaker, and his influence, top down, would influence the other congressmen anyway. So just let's focus on McCarthy, and then I'll work behind the scenes with some other people to get in front of him and get good data in front of him.
When do you think you might have some new information that we could have you back on to talk about? Sometime after the first of the year, maybe?
Yeah, that would be a good target. Yeah, I've already started the phone call process right now. There's other people in the Navy Yard we want to talk to. And it's an issue of how the protocol for approaching them may take more time, and we may have to do it through McCarthy's office anyway. So I'll let you know as those plans mature.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting. You know, you can drill down 10 feet under the Navy's Public Works building there and get water.
Right.
But out in Inyokern, we talked to people. Just recently, we had Mr. Stu and Kathy Fields on, and they're concerned they're going to have enough water next year, that they're going to run out of water.
Well, let me add a data point if there's time. I have 2 swamp coolers on each end of my house, and I was using the bypass tube from my pumps, and I just ran it out in my garden thinking nothing about it. Well, being the conservationist that I am now, I bought 2 50-gallon drums, and I ran those lines into it. Guess how much water I was collecting a day per swamp cooler? 50 gallons. The top was floating every day, dumping 50 gallons. So what did I do? I unhooked the bypass tube, closed it off. I have a filter, and I have an anode in my swamp cooler, and I'm expecting to replace my elements every year for $90 because that's cheaper than 50 gallons a day out into my garden, my cactus garden. That's really what we're looking at is there needs to be, that's an issue that needs to be addressed too, evaporative swamp coolers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need a county ordinance banning the pumps with the bleed. Get rid of it. To the fact that if you...
Mr. Zadiba from the Water District would argue with you on that.
No, because the alternative...
I brought it up to him.
The alternative to that is to put in what's used to be called a clean machine. There's some generic name, but it's a device that is on a 6-8 hour cycle, and what it does
that's
is
what I meant.
It completely pumps the cooler dry, thus getting rid of all the salts. Now that you can pump into something, but and then capture it for use. But it saves about, I think, 50% or even greater than that, as opposed to the 1/4 inch bleed. So there are ways to improve that.
The other thing to mention too is, and I brought this up to Congressman McCarthy, we're in the Saudi Arabia of solar.
Yeah?
Yes.
We have the highest solar insolence of any place in the country.
Yes.
I have one of those battery rechargeable solar panels in my house. And in the pamphlet it says this will draw an average of 16 volts a year no matter where you are in the country. So I just hooked a voltmeter up to see what it would do outside. It pegged at 24 volts. I took it inside my garage with the garage door open just to measure the reflected light, 20 volts. I could run a solar panel system in my inside my garage. Okay, so we have this wonderful resource that we can take advantage of if somebody brings up the topic of, well, it's going to be too expensive to clean this water up. No, we'd solar power it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. On that same note, I've been told that the pistachio trees are the highest yielding trees in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are.
The alfalfa that we grow here has the highest protein level anywhere in the state, and people want to get rid of that?
Right.
That's a blessing.
Right.
To have that. We should protect that. So we have all these solutions.
And as usual, we ran out of time again.
Uh-oh, I didn't hear it again.
And so join us next week. We'll talk probably more about water, but who knows? Join us then.
See you, folks. Have a great holiday.